Hey, everybody. Welcome to the first episode of the Jailhouse Informant, coming to you live from the historic Scott County Jail in Huntsville, Tennessee. So we'll wait for a few minutes to let some people get on. But if you're with us tonight, please say hey. If you have any comments or questions about what we're going to be talking about tonight, go ahead and leave those in the comments. We'd love to hear from you tonight. So what we want to do with this first episode is really just kind of introduce ourselves and let you know what we're going to be doing with this podcast, some of the fun things that we've got going on, some of the events that we're going to be having, what we've done at the historic Scott County Jail up to this point, and like I said, some future plans.
Yeah, so we're just going to take a few minutes and say hello to the folks who have tuned in. We've been so excited about this because this has been something that's been part of our phase with our opening. And so we've just kind of been holding off till we kind of got in here, got some things going on and had some stuff to talk about. So we just want to say hello to Janet, hello Jolly. Thank you all so much for tuning in. And like I said, if you've got any comments or questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. And we'll put them up here on the screen. So again, thank you so much.
All right, so first thing we'd like to start off with is for those of you who don't know who we are, we're just going to kind of introduce ourselves, kind of tell you how we got started here at the historic Scott County Jail, our company, History, Highways, and Haunts, LLC, and just kind of how that came into existence. So some of you may already know this story, but some of you may not, so we're just going to go through it briefly. So as a way of introduction, my name is Dr. Christy Sumner, and I'm the founder of Soul Sisters Paranormal.
And I'm Miranda Young, and I'm known as the Ghost Biker.
So what we did is we actually came together to form a company called History, Highways, and Haunts. And our goal with that company was to open a location that was historic, that we could promote as historic, but also have a paranormal background as well. And so we found that unique location here at the historic Scott County Jail in Huntsville, Tennessee. So we came together and we had a business plan, and that business plan including really highlighting the history of Scott County and highlighting crime and punishment and law enforcement appreciation as well, and telling the story of the jail and why it's so important for this community that in the historic preservation sense. And then we also wanted to open it up to see if people could communicate with the reported spirits that were supposed to be in this jail as well.
Yeah, I mean, whenever we first came in, we were getting reports from people who worked here in the past saying that they had experienced different paranormal activity while they were actually here and while it was open. People who worked around the jail, inside the jail. A lot of people were reaching out to us and saying, you know that place is haunted, right? And so got to say, we've been open for 6 months now, and the place has not disappointed. So that's what we're really trying to do here with this. A lot of folks don't really know that we're open still. And so we are open. We are open 5 days a week. The only days that we are closed are on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. And we're generally open 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. except for Saturdays. And we're open 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. We have a museum that you can come in during the day and do daytime general admission tours. And we do offer military discounts as well as senior discounts and law enforcement discounts to those. But come in, take a tour of our quite robust crime and punishment museum. And then we are also open for after dark tours in the evening, which people can come in. They can hear some of the same stories that they're going to see during the day, but do it by flashlight, as well as hear some of the different ghost stories.
Yeah, and as Miranda said, it's very fascinating to have guests come in and tell us their story about the relationship that their family has with this jail. So I'd say probably 50% of our guests, maybe more, 50% or more of our guests that come in say that, my grandpa or my dad or my brother spent a little time in this jail, or, my dad or my brother was the sheriff or one of the deputies that worked here, or, women came in and said they worked dispatch here as well. So the jail is really interesting because it has that community tie, a very strong community tie. Almost anybody who is from this county or has longevity in this county has some type of relationship to this jail. So that's really been an interesting part of building this museum. really highlighting those stories, and we really tell it from a factual point of view, right? So anything that's written about in newspaper articles or court records that we've been finding, we've done a lot of research. So those are all the things that are highlighted here. And so what we want to do with this podcast is really tell some of those stories, and every episode we'll highlight one of those stories and kind of bring it to the audience who can't get here physically right now. We're also going to have some cool segments related to newspaper articles. We've got a very interesting display of how many newspaper articles do you think?
Oh, if I was guessing, you mean that's up right now, or
no, that we have upstairs?
Upstairs. Oh my goodness. I would say we probably have 5,000.
Yeah,
at least.
Yeah. We got a donation of we're going to say thousands of newspapers. So we're going to randomly grab one every time we do an episode, and we're going to read the highlight of that news article from the day that we're just going to randomly pick one and read a newspaper article and kind of tell you what was going on in Scott County on that select day. So a lot of fun things that we have planned for this podcast. Again, we want to answer any questions that y'all may have about this, but some of you may also be wondering kind of what our business background is with this as well. So I can tell you that for myself, as I said, I'm the founder of Soul Sisters Paranormal. I also have a background in business and a PhD in public affairs with an emphasis on criminal justice. So I think that really lends itself to this endeavor that we've tried to create. And then
yeah, and so as I said, I'm the founder and creator of Ghost Biker Explorations, and I've worked as a senior marketing executive for the past 21 years in several very large industries. And so my background is in design and marketing. So it was really just a natural fit for the two of us to come together and do this. Plus, with our paranormal backgrounds, I've been investigating for a little over 13 years. And I know you've been investigating for pretty close to that.
Yeah, exactly. About 10 years.
Yeah. And so, yeah, we're really excited to be able to do that. Everything that's in the museum here are things that have come from the community that are either on loan or that they've donated to the museum. And then we have a amazing audio tour that Dr. Sumner has put together. And what's really cool about this audio tour, we've got the different stops. We're actually about to add a few more stops to it, but we actually have people who either spent time here in the jail, either working or have family members in the jail that speak on the audio tour. And, and then also just some really cool, interesting facts. And then as far as the design and the different pieces, Dr. Sumner and I have put those together. Mm-hmm. So it's really been a labor of love, if you will, and quite a learning experience as well to be able to come in and be able to put this together in actually a fairly short time.
Yeah. And it's been a lot of fun. And the cool thing is Miranda is obviously from this county. So what's your connection there to Scott County, Miranda?
Yeah. So a little bit about the jail here. We are the town. We are located in Huntsville, Tennessee, which is a small rural community up here in northern East Tennessee. And we're about an hour north of Knoxville, right on the Kentucky line. I was actually born and raised here, lived here up until I went away to college. And then after that, I moved down to Chattanooga. And that's after I got out of college, I moved to Chattanooga, and that's where I began working and was there until moved back up to start here at the jail.
Yeah, and her parents also have a great connection here. So they were teachers at Scott County High. Oh, I'm going to feed you here.
Yeah.
So just to let everybody know that you do have that connection.
I do. Yeah. They, I come from, my entire family are teachers all the way back to my grandparents. They were involved in some form or fashion of the school. Both of my parents taught at Scott High School. I know we have some people here in the chat room that aren't local to the area, but hopefully we also have some local folks that are watching as well. So y'all probably know me, Mr. and Mrs. Young at Scott High School, science and business teachers there. So yeah, I mean, and that's the really cool thing here about Huntsville is there's so much pride in the community, and there's such a rich historical background, everything from, the Civil War, Native Americans. I mean, and then just that sense of pride. I can't tell you how many people have come to the jail and said they spent time here, or like Christy said, that they had family members who worked here as well. So a lot of people, in fact, there were some folks that came in yesterday and they were pointing at the pictures and pointing at some of the different articles and stories and stuff and saying, that was my uncle, that was my grandfather. So it's always really cool when people come in and they're able to share their stories with us, because we're still learning. Mm-hmm. And I have a feeling we're going to be learning for a while about just all the different stories that this jail has.
Mm-hmm. And another thing that we want to do with this podcast is, tonight it's just the two of us because this is, the inaugural episode, but we will be having guests every week. Next week, it will be the mayor of Huntsville, Dennis Jeffers. So we're going to be having guests on to talk about their relationship to the jail, their relationship to the county, really get that historical perspective. So we're going to have, different guests like that. We're going to have different paranormal teams that are going to come on and talk. We've got a really interesting lineup here for the next few weeks that we're extremely excited about. So like I said, while you just get to listen to the two of us babble tonight, from here on out, we will be having guests on every episode. They will take up probably at least a 30-minute segment of the time slot for this podcast. And we're really excited about that because, again, I think that's going to allow our audience to get a very unique perspective about how this jail has affected the community and their relationship to it.
Yeah, so it's going to be a very broad, general interest podcast per se. I mean, yes, we will have some paranormal on here, talking to some of the different teams that have been here, kind of sharing some of the different experiences that we've had and some of the different stories relating to that. But that's not going to be the entire segment or the entire show. And there will be some times where one of us may be on location or be somewhere else. And so we may be broadcasting from that, and then there'll be other times where it's like a full guest segment. So yeah, we're just extremely excited about the different possibilities that we can bring with this.
Mm-hmm. And just a little bit about the history of the jail, again, for those who've just joined us here for the first time. The jail was built in 1904. It was in operation until 2008. It was shut down per fire marshal code violations. So they on a Friday night, on one evening on a Friday evening, they came in and said, this jail is now closed, and they had to hustle all of the inmates out at that point. It sat vacant from 2008 until 2017, when the town of Huntsville actually acquired it from the county of Scott County. So the town of Huntsville is the official owner of the jail. They got a tourism grant in 2017 to really refurbish some of the jail in regard to painting, getting new windows installed, heating and air conditioning units. So we are climate controlled. And then after that, it sat vacant until last year, when Miranda and I really approached the town of Huntsville to see if we could, formulate our business plan, work with the town of Huntsville, and really put in that preservation effort that we really wanted to do for this facility. So that's kind of the general history. But when you look at all of the different stories with regard to inmates that were here, the jailers that were here, really the violent tendencies that were here as well. I mean, we have a story of one of the sheriffs, R.D. Ellis, who was killed outside the front door in 1925. So a lot of stories come out of here, and those are the things that we really want to share with you to really show you how special this building is.
Yeah, and so we'll be kind of diving in deep to some of those different stories pretty much on each episode. So hopefully we'll have possibly some former inmates who served time in here, former sheriffs, former jailers, and then other people who have had connections that can, even some relatives. We've encountered, actually, one of the ladies that she makes our soap for us in the gift shop. She is a distant relative to Sheriff R.D. Ellis. And so we're hoping to get some of these different folks in that have connections with some of these stories that can give us a little more information.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so like I said, I think it's going to be really fun. And again, we want to answer anybody's questions that they have. If you have recommendations for any show topics that you would like to see, we'd like to hear those and really get those included as well, because we do want this to be a community podcast to highlight not just the jail, but different aspects of the community as well.
Yeah, and if you aren't from Scott County, we hope you'll learn a little something about this amazing area, and that you'll want to come and visit us, but also want to come to some of the really cool locations around, especially like Like, for instance, tonight, ate at Dean's Diner up in Oneida. And, so we want to talk a little bit about some of those type places, and different things for when people come into the community and, where they can eat, where they can go and enjoy their time while they're in the area. Because we may be a small rural community, but we really do have quite a few interesting things to do if you just know about them,
And we're not going to forget about our paranormal friends. So we will be talking about some of the paranormal things that we have going on here. Personally, both Miranda and I, we do feel that this jail is pretty haunted, and we've had numerous teams come in and kind of get evidence to that effect. So we're really excited about those things as well. I'm not sure if you saw the post that we did that we made last night, but we did have a very interesting public ghost hunt on Saturday, this past Saturday. And one of the guests was just snapping pictures. She took 3 in succession right here in our drunk tank area and captured what we thought was a very interesting shadow figure. So,
and actually, if you'll bear with me just a second, because I'm manning the thing here, I will actually pull up those pictures while you continue talking, Christy.
So, and we've had reports of shadow figures in this building, and so to be able to see that and capture that on film was kind of interesting. So I think Miranda's going to try to pull it up here in just a second.
Yeah. So essentially, what we do and what we've done in the past is we do offer the flashlight tours. We offer private paranormal investigations for teams and people who do this, quote unquote, professionally. And then also public ghost hunts for folks who aren't necessarily paranormal investigators, wanting to learn more about it. Both Dr. Sumner and I host those ghost hunts. And so we were hosting a particular ghost hunt this past weekend. We had 7 people, correct?
Yep.
We had 7 people, so we had split up, and these images were actually taken from the drunk tank area. So I think I've got it now. I'm going to find, where is StreamYard here? There we go. All right, so
all right, hang on one second.
Yep, we've got it here. All right, there we go. Okay, so I'm going to pull that up to where y'all can see it. I'm actually going to maximize that where it's full screen. So what's interesting about this, down here on the first level, we've got, this is the jailer's quarters, the booking room, our gift shop, and a few cells down here. But this particular area, there was a group of 4 of us down here, and this was in the drunk tank area. We've got 2 drunk tanks. They've been turned into our current restrooms. And so it's also our law enforcement appreciation room, as well as the area where we honor the fallen police officers from our local area. So we had been asking some questions. We had some different paranormal tools set up in the 2 drunk tank cells. And this was the first cell. On the right here, we had been asking questions, and we're actually getting some really intelligent responses to some of the questions that we were asking. And so the red glow that you see, that's coming from a tool known as a REM pod. And so if you follow our shows, you've heard us talk about this. If you've not, just a brief description of a REM pod. It is a tool that has a proximity meter on it, and it also measures temperature. And so the theory behind it is when the EMF frequency changes, then the REM pod will go off. It will glow red, and it will glow multiple colors. And so the theory is if that happens, that there could potentially be a spirit nearby. And so we had been talking to the team that was with us, and we were telling them kind of the correct way to take photos when you're on an investigation. And so once we started receiving responses, the one of the ladies that was with us started snapping pictures. And when you take pictures on an investigation, we recommend that you take them one right after the other. And so these 3 pictures were taken in succession, and we believe we've gone in, we've actually ran tests on these images, and we believe that we've been able to capture something manifesting. There's the second one. And as you can see, you can see the bench where they would lay there in the cell, the commode, and then also the towel rack. And in the third picture, there's some type of shadow that actually comes in and it blocks out the entire door and the cell.
Yeah. So it was a very good capture. Again, it's one that we can't explain. I know both for Miranda and myself, we are very conscious of sharing pictures and photographs because they could have some type of we could be catching something that that we could essentially debunk. This one, we can't debunk this. There's nothing that gives any type of reflection. As Miranda said, this is the third picture in a series of pictures, and it just essentially materializes. Yeah, it essentially materializes, and we can't explain that. We have no explanation for this.
Yeah, so just a little something that was captured the other night while we were at that paranormal or that ghost hunt, and something that it's actually been getting quite a bit of attention online. We've had several different paranormal teams that have pulled the pictures in and looked at them as well. So something we're real excited about. So we got a couple questions and comments over here. Yes, Robert asked, did we say R.D. Ellis? Yes, that was Sheriff Richard D. Ellis. That was shot ambush style in August of 1925. And then Carl, he's actually one of the folks that went on. He is with the paranormal team, Black Sky Paranormal, and was commenting on the picture as well. So thank you guys for taking a look at this. Mm-hmm. And then Janet asks, what type of camera did they use? I am not sure what type of camera she had. She was with my group. I cannot remember at this moment. I need to check with her. I can't remember if she had used a cell phone or if she had used like a Canon camera. So I believe she had a cell phone, but she had I believe it was a cell phone with the flash off. Mm-hmm. But we'll definitely check with her and
I think it was the cell phone, because she had asked prior should she keep the flash off, and she was showing her new phone and how to turn the flash off. So Janet, I think it was her cell phone that she was using.
Okay, yeah, and we had everyone turn their phones onto airplane mode as well, so that they wouldn't set off any of the different tools.
Mm-hmm. And what's interesting about that night, and we'll share some of this later as we go through the evidence, but it was, they were here for 3 hours, and we investigated all 3 levels of the jail. And my group started on the 3rd level. Miranda started on the 1st. We convened in the 2nd. And initially for my group, the REM pods weren't really alarming. We had a couple K2 hits on the 3rd floor. And then we went to the 2nd floor actually before Miranda's group came up. And the REM pod, it had a couple of flashes and a couple of alarms, nothing too major. But as soon as Miranda's group joined us, we set one REM pod in one of the cells. My REM pod was in another cell. We actually had Miranda's periscope somewhat in the middle of the foyer there. And we stepped back, all of us stepped back into the little kitchen area, and we were getting positive responses on the REM pod, especially when we were asking if we would communicate with R.D. Ellis. And so we got some very interesting hits on those. We'll be sharing those here sometime in the future as well. But, as I said, the paranormal activity here is very interesting. There may be some in the community that think that there may be otherwise, but for us, based on the research that we've done and the hours that we spent here, there are things that we cannot explain that go on in this jail.
And what's been really fascinating about the whole thing is the fact that a lot of the answers and responses that we've been getting during these paranormal investigations, and not just us, but teams from all over the country that have been coming here, what's fascinating is the fact that we're able to take some of the things that they are capturing and actually match it up with factual history. And of course, we'll get into that, because we're going to have some of those folks come on and talk. We're also going to have some of the people who are involved with that history side that was able to verify our information, be on here and talk as well. So that's been the part that's been fascinating. I mean, the spirits here seem to be very intelligent and also very aware of what we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and there's different things that what we call trigger items that we use here as well. For example, music, especially songs like Amazing Grace or It Is Well With My Soul, seem to bring out some interesting responses while we're here as well. And then there are some cases where we don't even have to be doing anything. We can be sitting here at 1 o'clock in the afternoon and we'll hear footsteps running upstairs above us. So it is a very interesting little jail, and we're really proud of both the historical component that we have, but also the paranormal component as well.
Yeah, and Lisa York Little says my dad worked here. We would love to hear some about that. Actually, was he a jailer? Was he a sheriff dispatch? We'd love to hear more about that. So we welcome people to either reach out to us on Facebook or reach out to us. You can do it through the website or also to historyhighwayshaunts@gmail.com. And we've got that email address posted. So there's many, many ways to reach out to us. And so any story, big or little, we definitely want to hear. And as Christy was saying, and like I said, I'm just kind of scrolling through here. Jim Cody mentions, let's talk about the shadow picture. Well, shadows are something that, like Christy said, we see sometimes in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
It's nothing to be walking in the trustee cells and see something out of the corner of your eye, think someone's standing there. We have things audibly moving, we can hear them audibly moving. And different teams have captured light anomalies as well as shadow figures, especially on the 3rd floor and the 2nd floor. And of course, now on the 1st floor.
Yeah. And just for reference, the jail was a 2-story jail up until 1922, and then there was a fire that pretty much demolished the ceiling of the 2nd floor. And when they rebuilt it, they just decided to add that 3rd floor, and that became maximum security. So when you hear us talk about the maximum security area, that is the 3rd floor. The 2nd floor is generally where they kept what we call trustee inmates. Those were inmates who were able to go out and have different jobs, such as picking up road trash or working on vehicles, deputy vehicles, and such as mechanics. And then they had the janitors, those that would cook. So it does have those 2 very distinct layers.
Yeah. And so, again, just looking at some of the different comments here. Thank you, Billy. Yes, you and Night Stalkers need to get on over here and make that bucket list happen. And Jim Cody asks a really good question. Do you recreate the conditions and retake pictures to eliminate other possibilities? We do. We actually spend a very considerable amount of time doing that. Whenever we have a private investigation team here, one of us is always on site. We always say we're on site, but out of sight. And so a lot of the time the teams, especially if something dramatic happens, they'll either show us pictures or they'll show us, what has happened. And so we go in, we try to recreate. We won't get into too many of those stories right now because some of those are going to be full segments on the show. But, and we'll talk about how we went in to essentially try to debunk it. I was there in the moment when this picture downstairs was taken. So I know, and I actually remember when she was snapping the pictures because we had been asking intelligent questions. Or asking it questions and receiving intelligent responses. So I know where the light source was coming from, and then also where the people were located. But that's something that we always, ask, and we always essentially try to recreate. People will often call us and they'll say, I got this picture or I did this. Can you tell me if there's something over there in that corner originally, or how is it during the daylight hours? So we're always trying to do that and spend extensive time trying to figure that out. So thank you for your question, Jim.
Yeah, and it's not just paranormal investigators that come in here and experience things. We've had guests that just come in and take a day tour, and they'll come down and say, I felt something upstairs, or I heard something upstairs. Is there a man up there somewhere? We've actually had a guest that have heard male voices when there was nobody up there. We had a group of individuals come in last week, and they were saying that they were on the third floor, and one of them felt a little uneasy, and he started singing Amazing Grace. What's interesting about that is we have one of the trigger sounds that we use upstairs is Amazing Grace, because we feel it's connected with R.D. Ellis. And, this was, there was no prompting of him at all to tell me the story. He just came down and we started talking, and that's what he said. And so that was, again, very compelling for me to hear that, because that's something that we do all the time, is play that song. So that was a pretty interesting story.
Yeah. And we're starting to get stories like that all the time, and that we're able to correlate with different things that have happened. Jolly asks, what is the basic equipment you would recommend for a wannabe ghost hunter? And I think we'll probably do a whole show on this, because like I said, that's something I know both Dr. Sumner and I really enjoy doing. And we spend time, because again, a lot of the people who come to the public ghost hunts have never been on a ghost hunt before. Mm-hmm. So we kind of go in and explain some different things. As for myself, as far as basic equipment for someone, I recommend just a good dictation recorder. Sometimes you can just use your phone, but if you just buy and they're relatively inexpensive, a Sony dictation recorder, you can plug a pair of earbuds or headphones into it. You can actually listen at the same time that your recorder is recording, so you can hear voices in real time. So I would just recommend that, a camera or a cell phone to take pictures. Sometimes cell phones can not be as good as just the regular camera, but that's what I would recommend, and not spending a whole lot of money starting out to see if you like it. And then a K2 meter, and probably some cheap mag lights is what I would recommend.
Yeah, and I'm pretty much the same. Definitely a voice recorder. I think that's one of the staples that you need when you're going on any paranormal investigation, because you can pick up those audible sounds that you don't hear in the moment, or sometimes you do, but that you don't hear in the moment, and then you realize you've captured them on audio. So that's a very necessary tool if you're a paranormal investigator. When we do the public ghost hunts here, we actually have tools that will loan those people that come on those tours, K2 meters and flashlights and such. So you can actually use that equipment, and we'll familiarize you with that equipment and how to use it, and kind of give you that experience. But to Miranda's point, a voice recorder or a K2 meter, relatively inexpensive and good starter tools for paranormal investigators.
Yeah, it can get expensive real quick, and some of the equipment can be debatable. So yeah, if you were starting out, that's what I would recommend. And like she said, we've got all kinds of tools that you're welcome to use. And actually, let's see here. Carl says, can't wait. I'm glad you all appreciate the history behind the site. And for us, that's first and foremost. Mm-hmm. Speaking for myself, the paranormal activity is just icing on the cake. Being able to be in the location and experience the history. To me, that's the most important anyways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And there's so many historical stories behind this jail. I mean, we could spend pretty much every week for the rest of this year telling you one story every week, and we still wouldn't really scratch the surface behind some of the stories that we know of and that we've heard about through visitors that come in through our doors.
Yeah, and just to kind of go off that just a little bit, and speaking of stories, so we offer the flashlight tours here at the jail specifically, and so this month we're doing something special called Crimes of Passion flashlight tour. In the past, we've done just our regular flashlight tours, which entail going through the jail, telling some of the ghost stories, some of the experience investigators have, and then just telling the history. We also did a Ghost of the Past at Christmas, and it was a walk. and it went through the town of Huntsville. It was a 2-hour walk and flashlight tour. So we went through the town of Huntsville, talking essentially about how the history from when Huntsville started all the way through, and telling some of the ghost stories, and then ending with the flashlight tour here at the jail. But we have so many stories. We're trying to keep those fresh every month by highlighting only specific stories. And this month are going to be ones that are essentially different crimes of passion. So got a couple of those booked, and we've actually still got a few more of those available. Those are every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night during the month of February. And they run from 6 until 7:30. And so if you want to take one, go onto our site and get your tickets before they sell out. Let's see here.
Cindy Rourke.
Yeah. I'm manning this on a computer I'm not used to. So I'm having to get the keys here.
So Cindy, we do know that there were numerous inmates who would self-harm. They would do that in an attempt to get out of the jail and get escorted to the hospital. The one that's the most compelling with regard to some of the activity that we've had here, there was a woman who was getting unruly upstairs. So they brought her down to the drunk tank and used the drunk tank as a solitary confinement cell for her. They were unaware that she had smuggled a razor in there with her, and she did proceed to self-harm. The reports are that the blood started running out through the door. That's how graphic it was. She did not die in the drunk tank, but she did die at the hospital. So we know that that is a report of a death that is associated with the jail. Also, throughout the history, we're talking from 1904 until 2008, there was a lot of violence. A lot of inmates that were, a good handful of inmates were lynched from here. So those deaths are associated with the jail. So we've had those reports. Absolutely.
Yeah, and we'll be talking again more about those in detail. But I mean, it was essentially mountain justice. So there were people who were injured when the mobs came in to bring the specific inmates out, and then of course the inmates themselves that were killed. I do know of a couple different reports of suicides. We're still working on getting this information, but I do know of a couple different suicides that we have heard about that took place on the third floor. That's a good question. And we've got Tina Wilkerson. She is coming on March 12th. We look forward to seeing you.
Hey, Tina.
And Katie says, we got the name Dave or David on one of our recordings from the third floor. Does that name correspond to any other recent activity or history?
That's an interesting name because one of our patrons here, who's been extremely generous with donations and stuff, his first name is David. He has an association with the jail also. So that could be the David they're referring to. And I'm sure at some point during the history of this jail, there's been a David or two that has been an inmate here and or a jailer that's been here. So it's kind of tough to narrow it down, obviously, but the one David that comes to our mind in recent history would be that patron of ours.
Yeah. I mean, we're working on getting the inmate records. We do have those of the folks who had been incarcerated here. So we are working on getting that information. And again, if you're a team and you've come and investigated here, we definitely, if you've got some names or whatever that we have not mentioned when we were given the tour, or when we were doing the investigation, send those to us and we'll see what information we can find. And we'd love to hear what was going on whenever you got those specific names. And Nancy says, have you tried GoPros? Yep. Oh yeah. We have
GoPros.
We actually, between the two of us, have quite a few pieces of equipment. GoPros I have a couple.
It's a staple.
Yeah. And we've got drones, DSLR cameras.
Body cameras.
Police body cameras. Yeah. So, and we've been having so much activity on the flashlight tours and the public ghost hunts that we've started wearing our body cameras while we're doing that. because it's nothing to be upstairs and have something come running up the stairs. Or we actually, on one of the flashlight tours at Christmas time, we had these little battery powered candles in the windows, and we actually had one get thrown out of the window. And so just happened, and that's really when we started wearing the body cameras, because we saw it with our own eyes, but we didn't have the cameras on at that point. So definitely GoPros. Katie says, also, is there any history of an inmate losing a foot? That also came through on a recording.
We'll have to look into that one.
Yeah, I'll have to look into that. I do know of an inmate who lost half of his finger. I do know that one because when we were working on the jail trying to get it open, several people who were former inmates came here. Now, I don't know if he was telling me the truth or not, but he holds up his finger, or his half of a finger, and he says, "You see this?" He said, "I lost this in the kitchen up there." He said, "I had to go on to kitchen duty, and I wasn't wanting to do it. And somebody that I had a beef with was working in the kitchen that evening." And he said, "We ended up getting in a fight, and I lost half my finger." I think he said the guy bit it off, but I don't know. But we do know of that, but we will look in to see if there was anything when it comes to a foot. And actually, like I said, we'll pop back onto some of these questions. Since we're talking about the paranormal, Christy, do you think we ought to go ahead and show sort of our little promo, ours?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Kind of who we are and what we do.
Yeah. So like we said earlier, we were kind of talking a little bit about what we do. And so I wanted to kind of share a little bit. As Christy said, she's with Soul Sisters Paranormal. And so I'm going to pull up.
It should be down here.
Well, you have to share from here.
Okay. We'll do Ghost Biker. Just do Ghost Biker.
All right. We'll go ahead and do mine then first here. Actually, one more thing. We'll do it this way.
There we go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay.
She's still learning my computer.
Yeah, I'm a Mac girl, and she's got me on this PC here.
I'm just a Windows girl.
So I'm trying to figure that out. All right. Let me just make sure. All right. So I'm going to pull it up into full screen. All right.
So that kind of shows a little bit about who Soul Sisters Paranormal is. It's myself and my twin sister. We're the, whoops, hold on.
I don't know what that is.
That's Oh, goodness. Hold on. What happened? Oop. All right. Now we're going to show you Ghost Biker's trailer.
Okay. Yeah, you continue talking while I pull that up. Like I said, for some reason, the video didn't stop there. But yeah, you're not seeing double. It's not two Christies. That's
Yeah, I do have a twin sister, so she and I are the predominant investigators for Soul Sisters Paranormal. And as Miranda said, we've been doing it since 2014. So we do have an interesting background in history when it comes to paranormal investigations.
Yeah, and so as I said earlier, I'm the founder of Ghost Biker Explorations, and so here's my trailer and what I do. This is actually my promo for my season 4 that just came out. So let's get that started. What's really cool about this house, I want to show you here. See if we can see it with the camera. There are bullet holes are still here.
Okay, so that kind of just showed you a little bit about what we do in our background and our experience. So to be able to bring that experience and put that to use here in the historic Scott County Jail is something that is very, we feel unique because we do bring that experience from between the two of us. It really lends to an interesting dynamic, I think.
Yeah, and so if you want to see some of our work and kind of our resume, if you will, of our different investigations and stuff, because we really handle the jail like we've handled all of our different investigations. We come at it from a very historical point of view and really trying to match up the evidence with the history of the location. So you can go back and watch my past 4 seasons on the Ghost Biker Explorations Facebook page and YouTube channel, and then also Dr. Sumner's different past episodes on the Soul Sisters Paranormal YouTube channel and Facebook page as well.
Mm-hmm. Because I mean, it is really what we're all about, the historical component. So again, we do appreciate everybody that has supported us through this and kind of, again, helped us get this up and running just through your support, because that really does mean a lot.
Yeah. And we've got Kenny Newport on here. Thank you for joining us, Kenny. Love hearing Kenny's stories. He's a former inmate here at the old jail, and he said he spent many days and nights here, and his last stay was 90 days. So Kenny, if you ever want to share any of your stories, I know we would definitely love to hear it. And let's see here.
Yeah, we appreciate all the comments tonight.
Yeah,
It's very nice.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in and for doing that. And Katie, she's following up on her question earlier. She said we had asked, "Did you lose something?" The response was foot. That's interesting. We'll definitely have to check that out.
Yeah.
I don't know, Kenny. Do you know any of those stories like that about somebody losing a foot? Whoops. Let's see here. And Robert says, "Do you know how many, if anyone, ever died in the jail other than R.D. Ellis?" Yes. We do know there were 7 different inmates who were taken out of here and lynched. I don't have an exact number on how many actual inmates died here in the jail.
Yeah, you would think that with a longevity that this jail has, again, from 1904 to 2008, there had to have been deaths in here, whether it be from self-inflicted or violence or just natural causes. So to Miranda's point, we don't know the exact number, but it is a very good bet that there were inmates that died in here.
Yeah, and Kenny confirms. He says there were a few. Mm-hmm. So we're still working to try to definitely get more of those stories. And Lisa follows up with, she said her dad was a jailer and dispatch as well as a deputy. So I'm sure he definitely has some interesting stories and some insight. Like I said, we would love to talk to him because, again, it changes. The jail changed with every administration that was in here. Mm-hmm. So we're always wanting to learn. Let's see. Kenny says, not saying there's anything going on, but I'll say this. I've spent many days and nights in the jail, been in every cell block they have, and I've never seen or heard anything, never had any trouble going to sleep.
Good to know, Kenny. Thank you. It's an interesting place to be for sure.
And he also says, no, but I knew it. Okay, so he knows of that guy who lost a finger in the kitchen. All right, thank you. That was the guy who had stopped by and was wanting to come in. So very, very interesting. I'd like to know a little bit more behind that story. And let's see. And thank you, Jim. Thank you so much for your kind words. For myself, as far where I select my next investigation. So I tend to investigate a lot of these smaller, lesser known locations, more of the local hotspots, folklore, that sort of thing, local legends. So I get a lot of mine from either stories that people come to me and tell or from different books. That's typically where I pick mine from.
And ours is similar as well. Those are a site that has a reported paranormal hotspot or something like that. I know for us, Soul Sisters Paranormal just booked the USS North Carolina, so we'll be going there next month to investigate. That'll be our next investigation.
Yeah, so definitely some cool stories coming out of that. And then Cindy asks, have you ever investigated at the site of a plane crash for paranormal activity?
We did a mini investigation at the Patsy Cline crash site there in Tennessee, but not so much an investigation, but I did actually produce a video called Haunting Aviation. It's under our Landmark Legends and Lore series. So if you go on our YouTube channel, you can actually watch that. And we highlight, I think, 5 airline crashes and the reported haunted activity behind those airline crashes.
Yeah, and I actually had a lady reach out to me. I don't think she's on here tonight, but I had a lady reach out to me. Her family actually survived a plane crash, and so this was up in Kentucky, I believe, right along the Kentucky-Ohio line. That she had invited me to come and check out that particular plane crash. So yeah, I'm looking into doing that, possibly a season 5 episode. And let's see here. So we want to go ahead and get to our other little
so this again, as I said before at the beginning of the podcast, what we're going to do each week is we're just going to grab a random newspaper from one of the thousands that was donated to us, and we're just going to pick a random one, and we're going to read the highlights, the headlines, and some of the stuff that was going on that day. It's going to be called A Day in History here in Scott County. So the newspaper that we grabbed randomly tonight is from Thursday, January the 14th, 1982. Apparently, leading up to that day, the area was plagued by severe winter storms.
And just to say, this is the Scott County News.
Yeah, this is the Scott County News.
So there are two newspapers here in the county, the Scott County News and the Independent Herald. And we have a variety selection of both. I think we have more Scott County News, but yeah, so
aside from the weather, we also have that, let's see here, 4 Oneida residents charged with Sunbright oil firm break-in. So that happened in 1982 in January. One of the articles down here also.
we probably need more light.
Yeah, we're gonna have to work this segment out, but we're gonna need more light on this. But we do have a picture of some of the sheriff's deputies from Scott County here as well. And that picture is captioned with Scott County deputies D.T. Gibson and Johnny Davidson recovered these items, which included a set of wrenches valued at an excess of $1,000 from a vehicle in the Oneida area early Friday morning, a short time after they had allegedly been stolen from Sunbright Energy Explorations Incorporated. 4 Oneida area residents were taken into custody and later transferred to Morgan County, where they face charges of larceny. From right to left are Gibson, Sheriff Marion Carson, and Davidson.
And what we'll do after the podcast is over, these articles that we highlight, we'll take pictures of those articles, and then that way we'll pull them up to go with the podcast.
Yep. Also today we've got another picture here, and that is captioned as Scott County Deputy Danny Douglas examines a bullet hole in the windshield of a vehicle officer said was driven by Stephen Anderson, who had been charged with felonious assault with intent to commit murder in connection with the wounding of 18-year-old Robert Crabtree during a shootout early Sunday morning in the Huntsville Paint Rock Road. Anderson told officers the crack below the bullet hole occurred when his windshield was struck by a poker. Okay. So interesting things this day.
Big sale at the Piggly Wiggly Bakery and Deli. Cake
Yeah.
donuts $1.49 and chili 85 cents.
So again, just kind of interesting. We've got, again, the bullet strikes the automobile. That's interesting. Vehicles collide on icy highway. That happened yesterday. Well, the basketball team in Oneida did really well the prior evening, so that's good. Apparently there's grocery prizes going on. 863,000 in grocery prizes. Where's that at? At the Super Grocery Giveaway, offering 39 million coupons, mail-in offers worth over 20 million in savings.
And that's cool because that's Scott Foods over there, which is no longer here anymore.
Okay, so the major headlines for January 14th, 1982 were the snowstorms, severe winter weather storms. So not unlike what we're having or what we just had a week or so ago. So nice timing.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll get that kind of honed in a little bit more. And like I said, we'll take some snaps of that and put that with the podcast notes here. But what we'll probably do, I think, is maybe get that and we'll each kind of pick a story out of the paper that we want to cover, and we'll talk about it on the next episodes.
So anyway, so again, thank you all for joining us tonight. We know this is a little bit kind of haphazard, but we did want to kind of introduce ourselves, kind of let you know who we are and what we're planning on doing for the upcoming episodes. We do appreciate all the questions and the comments that we've had here tonight. What's Kenny say?
Kenny says, I'll never forget making hooch. My last stay there had everyone on the second floor drunk. Harry Brown was the jailer. He came up and half the cell was passed out. He said, Newport, they're drunk. I said, well, there did they get it? Or let's see, I can't read. Where did they get it? I've not been anywhere.
There you go. Good job, Kenny.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. But again, thank you all for your stories, your comments, your questions. We do really appreciate all the support that we've been given from the community and from all of our fans out there. So thank you. Please look forward to our next episodes. As I said before, we'll have Mayor Dennis Jeffers joining us next week. He'll be talking about his historical connection with the jail and the county as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I said, definitely some great guests coming up, some great topics. And again, thank everyone for your comments, your questions, and for joining us on this first night. Like I said,
Yep.
We've been really excited about it. So we're going to go ahead, wrap this up, and 'cause we're going to try to keep the episodes to right around an hour, maybe a few minutes over, but that's what we're going to really try to keep the episodes here while we're doing this. So again, thank you all for tuning in. We will definitely be back next Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern time, and like I said, with the mayor.
Thank you all. Good night.